Get Sweaty with Leddy, a wellness program about pain management. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Get Sweaty with Leddy. It is 14 degrees out, feels like 4, sun is shining, and we had our first significant snowfall in about 2 years. Fantastic day for a sauna and a cold plunge. And today's guest, we have Jen Veralle, and I actually met Jen after reading an article she wrote in the newspaper. She is an NA advocate, a TEDx speaker, and co-founder of Zero Proof Collective and Sauna and Sobriety. And I'm excited to talk to her today about the relationship between alcohol and pain. Well, let's go sweat. All right, now that we're inside this lovely Excelsior sauna, I'm happy to be sitting on the bench with my guest, Jen Veralle. It's good to have you.
Awesome to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Now, I know about my own relationship with alcohol and pain, and we can get into that as we go, but let me ask you, Jen, what brings you into pain?
Oh, such a good question. When we first talked about this, I was thinking about pain in terms of a physical pain. And as I've been thinking about it more, it is like a suffering. Like my pain was more like suffering of being in social spaces that didn't accept the fact that I was trying not to drink. And I really align those pain points as more like mental challenges. And we can talk about how sauna was a solution to that. But for our conversation today, for sure, want to talk about all the ways that pain shows up.
I love that because, yeah, I mean, pain is such a funny thing. You know, your first instinct of when you hear pain, you're thinking injury, right?
Yeah, right.
But the pain that can come from the brain,
Oh,
just
yeah,
a mental
love that.
standpoint,
Yeah.
can be just as debilitating as physical pain. And for me, you know, whenever I set goals, the first thing to go is alcohol because I need to be concentrating. I need to sleep well. Everything needs to be functioning. And if it's a constant in your life, you're never able to take a break from it, and the pipes aren't functioning clean.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You got dirty pipes.
Yep. I would say in active addiction, it was, you know, waiting till whatever time during the day when I could actually have alcohol. Because I was I would say, high functioning alcoholic. And my pain was kind of suffering through the day, knowing that I wasn't living in my purpose. Alcohol kept me out of my purpose. And I always say to anyone, any amount can do that. You don't have to define yourself as an alcoholic. You can just say, alcohol doesn't serve me. So I was in this insanity cycle of pain. And what do we do when we have pain? We're uncomfortable and we immediately look to solve it. And for me, it was alcohol. It was like that I knew would do the trick. Obviously not long term, but right in terms of an immediate fix, did it for me. I was like, okay, now I can relax. I can reduce my anxiety about being in the workplace or like sort of covering up my alcohol use.
Yeah. Wow. I know what that struggle is like. I never really saw myself as someone with a drinking problem. I had a couple incidents where I got a DUI. You know, that was a bummer.
Yep,
There's that.
bummer.
That's adolescence.
Yeah.
Not knowing how to operate properly in life. But you know, beyond that, I was fortunate that I was able to turn off the alcohol. For me, that the problem, you know, was actually binge eating in a sense.
Yeah, right.
That's where but so I can relate from that
sure.
binge eating standpoint when you're waiting through the day and you're just like, I'm doing well, but there's just something in the back of your mind that's like, yeah, I know you're doing well, but just wait.
And you're going to go there.
Yeah.
In your book, I totally resonated with that because it was like, okay, getting through the day, just kind of getting through life is how I operated. And then it was like, work out hard. I'd always say, you know, toxins in, toxins out. And I would get a reset. But in the back of my mind, in the morning, I might say, you know, I'm so hungover, I'm not drinking again. I'm not going to do it tonight. By 5, 6 o'clock, I could just feel that anxiety coming up, that that suffering of like, how am I going to escape this? How am I going to spend just time with myself and my own body and not be so uncomfortable?
Right. Yeah. It's those are challenging times.
For sure.
And I know when I was trying to break through of my depression, and when I was going and hanging out with my friends again, that was tough. Everybody's drinking, and fortunately, I had cannabis as a good thing in my life. So, I would have friends that I could hang out with, and we would enjoy smoking weed together. But they were far and few.
Yeah.
And there was a stigma to that at the time.
Oh, for sure. We're
still dealing with it now, even with the legalization of it. But yeah, I mean, gosh, do I just have one beer? Do I have one drink? And I would start to get to this mental point where when I would even have one, it was almost like a day ruined.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where if I'm trying to achieve goals physically or professionally or just socially,
totally.
I want to have
that.
I like sober days. That's where I ended up finding that balance is seeking out sober days.
Yeah. No, and I think it's really interesting because I view it when you say like that off switch, right? Like I know that I never had that. I consider myself in recovery. I use different terms now to describe my relationship with alcohol, which is I need to be sober, like sober necessary is what I say, but I never had an off switch. So there's defining that relationship with alcohol, but I almost in 10 years of sobriety now am like, I actually feel kind of blessed that it's not an option for me.
That's
and
so
it takes it off the table completely. And I look at others who want to be alcohol free, but they can take or leave it. And so they are in this middle ground of like, how much is too much? And like, where do I assess my relationship? And I guess it's one of the beautiful things of long-term sobriety is you just don't even have to think about that.
Yeah. That's pretty great. Yeah. When I started, this time last year, I was really into the process of writing my book, and I was looking at my month. And at the beginning of all this, I was looking at it like, man, I don't even know if there's a day in there where I don't want to have a beer or do something like that. So I had to get over that mental thought where I need to have a beer. And, fortunately, like being a brewery owner, that can be kind of interesting, right?
Oh, yeah. We got to talk about that more. Yeah.
But we're able to sell THC. And for me, I see THC seltzers as a non-alcoholic option, but I understand how it's not non-alcoholic for everybody, right? And it has different meaning. But for me, being able to be an advocate for not consuming alcohol and also how cannabis can benefit from you, that has really helped me move on from the daily desire to have just one beer.
Yeah.
And
that's huge.
I can just go back behind the bar and pour whatever I want, whenever I want, right? That was tricky for a few years,
for sure.
but I've been able to find that balance, and it's so key.
And like, trust yourself. Like reading your book all about the Krispy Kremes, right? I worked at a bakery for 3 summers, and like, just, the temptations are always there, and it's part of your work environment. So I love that you bring that up, because when I came to Back Channel first and when we met, I was like, this really does feel like a community and a social space, which to me is all about the NA movement, is making it more of a social movement to say we aren't necessarily gathering in order to just drink. You have the space, but you've provided options. And that's all I have ever personally wanted and been advocating for. So
totally.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely. And thank you for seeing like what we're trying to do. We are called Back Channel Brewing, but I view us as an entity, as a gathering space, an event space. People where all walks of life can come together. We had a Sauna and Sobriety event a couple months ago, and it was fun talking to people about, hey, let's break down this invisible wall of you have to drink if you're coming to a brewery, because you don't.
Right.
We have more NA options than beer, than regular beer options.
I couldn't believe the selection you brought out today. I was like, that's amazing. And also just to have it integrated. So I think one of the issues with recovery, and one of the things I saw missing, was people in AA, for example, would go to fellowship and do things just with their non-drinking friends. And I always thought, well, that's great. That helped me for the first 3 years. That's all I did because I didn't trust myself in different social spaces. But what happened was, 3 some years into it, I'm like, there's got to be a way to integrate. I have friends that don't drink or drink responsibly, that have a couple NA beverages and maybe shift to alcohol or vice versa. But the behavior and the way they show up is still authentic. Like you can still be in community with people that drink if you don't.
Definitely. Yeah. And I like how you said responsibly in your article. The word that really struck me was mindful drinking and mindful consumption. And that's how I view myself as a mindful drinker, because I like to stay in shape. My whole being is fighting pain.
Right.
And I've recognized that too much alcohol will lead to pain. So there has to be a balance. I like to celebrate with friends, but I'm not going to get blasted anymore. I can have a few beers that's good. I liken it to my desire to have sweets and donuts as well.
Totally. Right.
Like Krispy Kreme is coming back to the Twin Cities, and I'm gonna have one of those damn donuts.
Yes.
Am I gonna have a dozen? I don't think so.
It'll be a celebrated moment where you will have come to that with just a different perspective, and your journey looks different.
Yeah. Exactly. But like when it comes to staying in shape, I look at a week and I'm like, I'm gonna work out there. I'm not gonna have a beer or alcohol later on.
Right.
That is not good for protein synthesis. Alcohol is gonna kill that process.
And I love that you know all the science behind everything, because that's actually a new driver that people have come to it. Like even in the sauna where we're at in cold plunge, there's huge, health benefits. And if you are someone who works out and takes care of your body, ultimately you have to say alcohol doesn't align.
Correct.
I mean, I was doing these crazy like step classes and killing myself, half hour workouts daily when I was in active addiction, just to be able to say, I've got my, act together. I'm totally fine. But that hardcore mentality of working out. And then when you look at like how you want to perform, it's like, how did alcohol fit into that? Of course, I was in my 20s and 30s when I was doing that, but that would never fly now.
Right.
It would take me out for days.
Yeah. It's crazy. I used to, we chatted, we had a similar story where you'd go out, you'd drink when you're young, and you'd stay up super late.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't have any food when you get home at night.
Yeah.
You get up in the morning, you feel shame, and you go and pound away for an hour or two, sweating, not necessarily replenishing, and then when you do replenish, it's never enough. So there's this constant state of depletion when you're fighting the alcohol workout routine.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I didn't know about water. Honestly, now people like actually know to drink water. This was, 2 decades ago, where I would get up and maybe have some caffeine and then go to a spin class.
Yeah.
And just like, what? How did that even happen?
Crazy.
I don't know. It's
Crazy.
wild. Yeah.
Well, water is life.
Water is life, and we're gonna get in some very cold water soon.
Oh, I can't wait for that. Speaking of which, I'm gonna step down here and stoke our fire a little bit.
Yeah, we could use some heat.
Oh, it's nice to see the mercury rising in here with that with those additional logs just put on. We're getting sweaty.
Yes.
I'm excited to get cold. Thinking cold plunge remedies there. How are you remedying others that are getting into sober necessary or understanding how to engage socially when they feel maybe just trapped in that lifestyle?
Yeah. Well, I can talk a little bit about how I came to sauna and cold plunge, which was 3 years into sobriety, and I really didn't have any adult social experiences that I didn't have to work at to like create and be like, reach out to friends and like go out. So what I loved about when I discovered sauna and cold plunge, like as I know it now, was at the Ewing Hotel, and it was 3-hour guided experiences. But the cool thing is you could just go on your own. I didn't have to reach out to my friend group. I could just show up. And something about being in conversation, like you can join in if you want, but you can also just sit back and listen. And it provided this like intimate community belonging experience that I think a lot of people, there's a lot of isolation, right? And especially in winter in Minnesota, we go deep, and that to me was like very isolating to not be able to drink and go out. So when I found this, I was like, I bet other sober people are people just, looking for a different experience would love this.
Totally.
So the correlation there to me was just like a light bulb. And that's also why, co-founding Sauna and Sobriety was a direct invitation to say, come here and don't be pressured to drink.
Right. And you offer all of these different NA options for people too. So it's not just a gathering where you're with like-minded individuals. You get a nice little spread of delicious offerings that really ease the burden of not being able to drink, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes when people are smoking, they just want that cessation of putting something into their
100%.
mouth. And same when it comes to just casual conversation where beverages are involved.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to, really look at what everybody was drinking back in the day, and
for sure.
now I just hope somebody's got something in their hands.
If you have like a little sparkly beverage in hand, and that's what I fully embraced early in sobriety, is like if you have something elevated, something special in your hand, people aren't really asking the question.
Right.
And I used to get very angry when I didn't have anything and people constantly would try to buy me drinks, or be like, well, you're no fun because you're not drinking. I'd be like, I challenge that because we know we're fun without alcohol.
You're damn right. But you bring up a point. Yeah, it's just it's just another example of that pain, that little bit of mental pain that can be inflicted when someone asks you what you want to drink or what can I get you, and there's maybe just like a hesitation afterwards if you don't say alcohol.
Right.
It's just
they don't know what to do with you.
They don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's what I always say. Like I felt very uninvited to all social experiences when I stopped drinking, and this was 12 years ago. And now with the NA products available, I always say, and I would put you in the category of a social curator of experiences, which can be bar, restaurant, could be corporate. But just to say that if you are doing that, then there's no reason you can't have NA options. And you fully embrace that. So I'd love to see that.
Appreciate it. And, I just had a conversation with somebody 3 days ago. And I do what I do naturally. I go, hey, can I get you a beer?
Right.
Because I know they enjoy beer.
Yeah.
But this time they were like, I'm not drinking anymore.
Wow.
And, I could sense the shame behind it, but I met that with encouragement, and
amazing.
It's like, I was like, that's awesome. Let's get together and I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah. I wish someone would have said that to me in early sobriety, but it was always like, you get the resistance or the unknown of what does that mean? And people back away from it, but you being able just to step in and see that. Because it is hard to say.
It's
when
hard.
You start, even the first year where I had to say that, it was like, oh my gosh, I hate this. I'll just avoid any social experience because I just can't deal.
Yeah, and I mean that's exactly I when I asked how's it going, the comment was I really miss the social, the conversation when we're hanging out, and I said that can still be there,
Yeah.
It's just going to be different.
It's going to be different.
And you just need to focus your mind on other things, and that's where wellness comes into play, because when you're starting to
100%.
feel better, it's easier to avoid something that will ultimately shed what it's trying to do, and it's hurting you, you know?
And it's hurting you. Yeah. That's what I never wanted to look at. I'm always like, the idea that alcohol is just, it's tied to my identity. It's what I do, part of my life. How could I exist without it?
Yeah.
And you're at the bar trying to answer that question differently, and it just bleeds back into the cycle of, belonging, and that's what we do in social spaces typically. So
totally
good to see that changing.
Yeah, and it's my goal I want to make everybody feel comfortable, and the more events that we do out here, or the more opportunities where we can make people feel at home, getting you out here. Maybe there's somewhere in the middle of us, right? Maybe they're more towards you, maybe they're more towards me, but what they've recognized is that the traditional behaviors can't persist.
Yeah.
And that's where this NA push right now is so important.
Well, and you're modeling that. So I always say, where are the social spaces that are going to model what it looks like? Because a lot of people are afraid to step into that. Their bar and restaurants are built around the idea that they are a haven where you can go and day drink. Like I think about the sporting things you do here. It's kind of like unwritten if you walk in the door to some of those places that you're going to have several, drinks, and you're going to be sitting at the bar maybe by yourself. So this is setting the tone for people kind of getting into that, like, what does that actually look like? And maybe it's the first time they've ever said, I'm not drinking today.
Yeah.
Maybe they're doing dry January and we're like, we have some THC or, whatever that is. It's pretty cool to see that happen.
Yeah. And, you bring up dry January and I used to just despise dry January. But
really?
Yeah. But now, like, we are fully embracing it. We're launching a bunch of new NA beverages. As I mentioned before, we have more NA available than we do actual beer.
That's amazing.
So,
oh my gosh.
The times have changed from like 2 years ago.
For sure.
I went from despise to, all right, let's make this happen.
Embrace.
Yeah, embrace.
Yeah.
Embrace. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And that's come along with my own personal journey though too. I don't drink as much as I used to.
Yeah, that's the whole story about. And you're creating this for yourself. Like you don't want to work your business just to serve, and have that be the only means, but you are pairing your journey with it, which is so cool to see.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, and this is just the tip of the iceberg for fun things that you and I get to do together.
Yeah.
You were not a part of Spring Park Awakening
I
last
was
year,
gone.
but you will be this year. And I
will
think
be.
there's going to be, a cool speaking engagement component that we can have.
For sure.
Just spreading wellness in this space.
Yeah.
And bringing worlds together.
Yeah, and I think it causes people to pause when they're like, wait a minute, a brewery is hosting something that, has NA and leads with that. And I've been looking, like the article on this thread that you saw and mentioned, 25,000 impressions on my LinkedIn page when I shared it. So I knew I struck a chord because it's like, the mindful drinking is growing, but those individuals aren't necessarily feeling comfortable asking for NA in different spaces. So you've made that, like, you're living proof. It's like, look at your sales, end of dry January, where are you? And if you're seeing an uptick in that, there's a lot of breweries who are watching very carefully what you're doing, but like to prove that concept out, that there's actually revenue and just the idea of social good and community.
Yeah.
Like if you can embrace that, it really makes sense. I mean, families come to breweries like on a Saturday, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
We pride ourselves on being family friendly.
Yeah.
Breweries used to get stigma. Like, oh my God, there's kids there.
Right.
No, we're a gathering space.
Yeah.
Not for one to just come and get drunk.
You feel that vibe. I felt that when I came here the first time. I was like, there's something different. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad that you can feel that. I'm glad that you can help break down these invisible barriers that exist. It's going to just benefit all.
I know. I can't wait.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know what else I can't wait for?
Are we going?
Oh yeah.
Well, we're hot enough in here, I think. That yeah. Okay.
All right.
Are we ready?
Let's do this, Jen.
All right.
Our bodies have reached the point of a cold return. Let's hop in and go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah! Nice.
It's nice.
Not as bad as you thought, right?
Not as bad. Wow. The gloves are
an X factor.
amazing.
Gotta have the gloves.
Yeah.
hear you. Trying to get ahead of it.
Yeah, no, you're doing great. You push your body, and you know that. I didn't know that. Like, you could use cold for recovery.
Yeah.
So good.
Oh yeah. Shall we?
Yeah. That was great.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh.
That was nice,
That
but
was
this is
amazing.
pretty glorious.
Yes.
So is that your first time in a hole like that?
No, I Lake Harriet.
Okay, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Lake Harriet. Okay.
Yeah. And
Nice.
that we had like shoes on, and I don't think I had gloves for that. So I think that made a huge difference.
It's
this
a key.
time.
Yeah, the gloves are a key
Yeah.
component.
Uh-huh.
The hat is as well.
Yep, the hat works. Mm-hmm.
Sauna hats are extra bonus points.
Uh-huh.
But no, I mean that was
Yeah.
everything that I was hoping for.
It was great. And the little walk down, like
Yeah.
the little transition before getting in was so good.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and so was our conversation.
Yeah.
Jen, I can't thank you enough for being a guest on Get Sweaty with Leddy.
I love it. I love the name.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to have so many great get-togethers and impactful gatherings in the
Yeah.
future. I look forward to that.
Mhm.
And in the meantime,
NA cheers.
and cheers. Yes, how about that? We'll just pound a
Yeah.
fist here.
Yeah.
We'll cheers our plethora of NA options
Yeah.
after this.
Yes. I love it.
And with that, thank you for joining us on this episode. Until next time.